Ukraine hopes to slow down Russia's advance and seize the initiative on the front before Donald Trump takes office as US president, the Financial Times reports. Senior officials are said to believe that proving they are fighters and winners will help convince the president-elect to support them. The publication reports, citing military officials and analysts, that the next few months will be a critical phase of the war as Ukraine tries to stabilize its defenses and strengthen its position in the east in case Trump forces it to negotiate with Putin. However, the publication clarifies, the Ukrainian authorities admit that they find it difficult to contain the larger and better equipped Russian army in conditions of a shortage of personnel. Therefore, they plan to recruit additional troops, although efforts to attract new recruits are complicated by the fact that military service has no fixed term. As 2025 approaches and Trump's inauguration draws nearer, there is increasing talk of negotiations and an end to Russia's war against Ukraine. After nearly 3 years of heavy battles and mass strikes, Russia's full-scale war against Ukraine is showing signs of accelerating toward what could be its final act, for now at least. Financial Times says that Trump has assured Europe that his administration will continue military support for Ukraine once he takes office. 3 sources familiar with discussions with Western officials have revealed that Trump plans to continue supplying Ukraine with US military aid following his inauguration. British officials who visited Washington in early December told the FT that Trump believes that supplying weapons to Ukraine after the ceasefire is in line with the idea of peace through strength. At the same time, they said Trump still believes that Ukraine should never become a NATO member and wants an immediate end to the war. During his election campaign, Donald Trump promised to cut off aid to Ukraine and force Kyiv to hold immediate peace talks, the Financial Times notes. Among other things, the US president-elect pledged to end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. Recall, over the summer and autumn of 2024, the battlefield situation markedly turned for the worse for Kyiv as Russia has begun capturing territory at a greater pace since the first months of the full-scale invasion. The resounding victory in the US presidential elections of former President Donald Trump, who has been openly scathing the US military and financial aid to Ukraine and the inner circle of whom have spread anti-Ukrainian narratives on the war, has put the future of Ukraine's ability to hold Russia back in grave doubt. Given the slow burn failure of the West's current policy to support Ukraine enough to simply survive rather than win in the face of Russia's war of attrition, many Ukrainians, from officials to soldiers and civilians, have expressed quiet hope that Trump could get tough with Russian President Vladimir Putin in an effort to stop Russia's advance. Recently, there has been an increase in the number of suicides among Russian military personnel stationed in the occupied Kherson region, reports the partisan movement Atesh of Ukraine. According to Atesh, the suicides involve Russian soldiers from the Russian Dnieper group stationed in the occupied part of the Kherson region. The likely cause of these tragedies is repression by the command, especially against those who refuse to participate in combat operations. In recent times, several suicide cases have been recorded in various settlements of the Kherson region. 2 weeks ago in Hola Pristan, a young man who had recently signed a contract with the Russian Ministry of Defense hanged himself, likely not fully aware of the consequences. In Kalanchak, another soldier shot himself after learning he was being transferred to an assault unit, reports Atesh. In Skadovsk, another Russian soldier took his own life by drowning in the sea. Initially, the command tried to portray it as an accident, but later it became known that the soldier had been tortured by his commander beforehand. The cause of this mistreatment was the soldier's refusal to participate in combat on the Dnipro Islands. Earlier, partisans reported panic within the Russian Dnieper military group. According to an agent from the organization, Russian officers received orders to prepare for an offensive on the right bank of the Kherson region. Earlier, Andriy Yusov, spokesman for Ukraine's defense intelligence, said that the number of suicides among Russian officers has increased significantly since the Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine began. The number of suicides among the Russists and Russian officers has increased since the start of the full-scale invasion and increased significantly. Some suicides may be related to such fears that the Ukrainian military will find them, he added. Yusuf said Ukraine is ready to accept those Russians who do not want to get their hands dirty and carry out criminal orders, regardless of their rank, from privates to generals and commanders, if they surrender as part of the I Want to Live project. Recall, I Want to Live is a Ukrainian state-run initiative where Russian servicemen are offered an opportunity to surrender to the armed forces of Ukraine. Yusuf is sure that this is the best and safest way out of the situation for Russians. We guarantee treatment in accordance with the Geneva Conventions and international humanitarian law, despite the fact that we are talking about murderers and aggressors. This means guaranteeing that surrender will lead to captivity, Yusuf assured.